The idea is you get out of North Bennett Street, you start your journey, you become a journeyman.
That's the idea.
Okay, let's stay high level. Okay, you're getting into too much detail.
Okay.
What changed? Why are you back?
He just kept begging me to come back, and like, dude, all right.
Welcome back to the Passion for Craft podcast. Today we're with Vincent Reed all the way across the pond talking to us today. So Dad, did you want to?
Yeah, Vincent and I have known each other for about a year, something like that. Vincent is a master restorer, wood specialist. He and I have had many geeky conversations about wood, about how to restore things. Vincent has the special acknowledgement. We were over there last fall, and Vincent goes, "Oh, would you like to go to Kensington Palace?" We were like, sure. And he took us in there and showed us some work that he had done, and he's got some great stories. I was on his podcast, so I thought it'd be great if he could join ours. Someday, hopefully soon, he's going to come over here, and he'll sit in this room with us, and we'll do it that way. We wanted to get him on the show.
Fun.
And talk about his past and kind of how you got to where you're doing. He's doing all the work for the Royals, the House of Commons, all these incredible institutions over there in England. He's kind of their guy. And so if you could tell us about your journey and how you got here, that would be great.
Wonderful. Well, firstly, thank you very much for inviting me.
Of course.
On your podcast. As I said, I'm normally the host, not the guest.
I get to ask the questions. I will ask the questions.
It's your turn now. You came on the Heritage Buildings podcast, and now it's your turn to ask the questions. Delighted to be here, and where did you want to know a little bit about my background, how I started?
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, because I think it's pretty special. It's pretty unique. I mean, certainly there's no one like you here in America. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was an unusual start for me because my parents were worried about me when I left school because I enjoyed school too much and not the academic side. Just enjoyed school too much.
Yeah.
And I pretty much left school without any qualifications at all. Now I realise a big part of that was because I have either dyslexia or ADHD. So I learn in a different way.
Right.
But back then, in the 1980s, when I was at school, that wasn't recognised. So I left school, and the only thing that my parents thought that I would be good at is working with my hands. I used to have a penknife and whittle bits of wood and make tree camps and up the garden and that type of thing. So I thought, right, okay, well, let's push him into some sort of furniture, antique furniture and cabinet making or whatever. So they found me an apprenticeship cabinet maker in Brighton to start with. And I went to college to be a cabinet maker. And then you have a few days working in a cabinet making company. And I absolutely hated it. I just really disliked it because it was making reproduction furniture, really sort of cheapy, nasty furniture. And I just didn't like it at all. And so I then went on to restore. I was an apprentice piano technician, so restoring grand pianos and the insides of grand pianos. And that was really good fun. I enjoyed that. And stripping the pianos completely out, working on the caseworks as well, all the repairs that were needed. I did really enjoy that. Unfortunately, the company that I worked for didn't treat me that well, and I ended up leaving that. And the big thing for me was my parents managed to find me a position in the Brighton lanes as an antique furniture restorer, as an apprentice. That's where it all started. Mm-hmm. And I was 18 years old. So quite late to be an apprentice. But I went in and luckily this place in Brighton was, it was some fantastic craftsmen, and almost like a Dickensian workshop. They don't exist anymore, unfortunately, because the antique trade, furniture trade, has died a long time ago. But there were 3 floors and about 12 to 15 craftsmen, from French polishers to carvers to repair specialists, glazers, locksmiths. There was
No kidding.
literally.
That's cool.
Yeah, so, and then so what happens is you take your tool chest on your first day. I had a huge, great big wooden tool chest, and I lugged that into Brighton on the bus, and then lugged it again into this workshop. And there was a shop underneath, and then the workshops are all stacked up on top. So I got showed, where to go first day, and I got plonked next to this gentleman, and they said, "This is going to be be your mentor. This is Mark. He's going to be your mentor, and you're going to just learn from him." And that's how it was then. You just got stuck next to somebody who was experienced. And then the furniture came in, and I had to start learning. At this stage, though, I must say, I was still quite a cocky, nonchalant kid. I wasn't really interested. I wasn't interested in being there with the antique furniture. Now I look back, and it was just an incredible opportunity. But it was a job at the time. It was a job at the time, and I wasn't interested. I just wasn't.
Yeah.
But one day, this is when it all turned for me. One day, we had a 18th century bureau, early 18th century bureau that came in for restoration. And it was my project, with Mark helping me. And he said to me one day, he said, "Sometimes you'll get secret drawers if you look behind the fall." And the fall being, for those of you, viewers that don't know, the fall is the piece of wood that sort of comes down that exposes all the interior drawers, and that's the fall. And he said, if you take the interior out, you sometimes find secret drawers. So he said, have a look, and see if you can find
an
one.
18-year-old kid, that would be the perfect thing to say, right?
yeah, I know. So there I was, and he said, you need to find some. There'd be levers and buttons, but he said they're really hard to find because it's for security. That's where they put their prized possessions. So I was tapping away and moving. I couldn't find it at all, and he came in, and within 5 minutes, he found the little lever and the button.
Oh wow!
And it popped this sort of front off this at the back of the bureau. And there it exposed 2 drawers, just 2 drawers. And I pulled, they were dusty. I mean, they literally, I don't think this mechanism had been opened for a long time. And I pulled the drawer, this first drawer out. I looked on the back, and it had the maker's name, 1724, July the 14th,
Wow.
1724.
Wow.
And it was that moment that everything changed for me. Everything changed. My imagination just went wild. Who was this person? Were they from the UK? What were the conditions like to make a bureau of this standard, a beautiful walnut bureau?
Yeah.
I remember that day. It was from that day, and that was the trigger for me, where I started becoming really passionate. And I hated history at school. All of a sudden, I started becoming interested in history.
Isn't that great?
Wow.
So it's a funny way of how it worked out,
Couldn't relate more. That is awesome. That's such a fun story.
So how long do you stay with that group?
Funny enough, not that long, probably about 2 years.
Another week.
2
and
years.
I was gone.
Because I'm always a sort of person that's on the move and wants to grab opportunities. And what happened was a few of my friends were going traveling to Australia and New Zealand, and I saved up enough money, and I left that place after 2 years. And it was fantastic. I got taught so well, and we had amazing furniture, but I just wanted to go traveling. And so I left when I was about 20, I believe. And then I was backpacking around New Zealand. I'm working on apple orchards.
Cool.
When I came back from New Zealand, I worked a bit as a furniture restorer. Then I started get really heavily into music, and then I was a musician for about 4 or 5 years as a full-time musician.
Yeah.
What did you play?
And then I came back.
He was a harmonica, right?
Blues harmonica. Yeah, I was a blues
fun.
harmonica player, Chicago blues harmonica player.
Yeah.
And that could have been a profession for me.
Yeah.
And then so how this happened? Well, I got back. I decided I wasn't going to be a musician. It was just too tough. So I set up as an antique furniture restorer in this. I had this little, almost like a chicken shed. I rented £20 a week.
Wow.
And it was damp and moldy, and I had my tools, and I started restoring bits of furniture, and I was basically now teaching myself because I hadn't done my full apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, I was only probably maybe with another place or two, maybe 3 years probably. So I was teaching myself.
So Vincent,
literally.
I wanted to ask about that because here in the States, our apprenticeship system, I guess, is completely non-existent in comparison to what is going on in the UK. And so what would be considered a formal full apprenticeship? Because you had to jump into teaching yourself.
Okay, so probably about 7 years.
Okay. Wow.
Starting at what age?
Yeah, so if you left school, I left school at 15. So so you'd be your early 20s before you're probably, but that's still young for an antique furniture restorer. You're still a young tradesperson. It's so much to learn, but Anyway, so then therefore I had this opportunity, and this is where coming to your question, Brent. I had this opportunity. I was restoring some furniture at this really, really amazing house. This house built in 1670. And whilst I was there dropping off some furniture, I noticed that they'd had some work done to the panelled walls. And there were big patches, literally, where they had stripped and sanded. Big patches in the panels, on the staircase, newel posts, and all sorts. And there were all these patches around. And I said to the estate manager, "What's happened?" He said, "Oh, don't say anything." He said, "We've been shut down by English Heritage because the contractor wanted to show the client how the panelling could come up. And of course, they've just ripped every bit of history out of it." Oh no! So, yeah. So I explained, I was saying, this is why they're cross, and this is why you can't do this. And explained about patina and everything like that. And he said, "Well, you seem to know what you're talking about. Would you like to come up, and we've got a meeting next week. Would you like to come up and join the meeting?" Anyway, so the next week I went up, and there was a big entourage of people going through this house, trying to work out, how they're going to move forward and open the project up again. And there were surveyors, project managers. It was a Grade 1 listed building. And there's me tagging along on the back, just minding my own business. And then we get to this panelled room, and the estate manager turned around to the English Heritage officer and said, this is, now we're over to our wood expert, Vincent, to tell us about the panelling. And literally put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I wasn't as bombastic as I am now, and I was nervous, and shy. And
I can't imagine
but I held my
that, by the way.
ground.
Having known you, I can't imagine you being shy.
No, I know I was. I was quite a shy person back then. I did quite a good job, so much so that the client said, "Look, we're really interested for you to price this work. Could you price the work for us?" English Heritage really liked my methodology. So, and I thought this is an amazing opportunity. And I said, "Okay, yep, I'll price it." Never done anything like this. I was just in my little chicken shed restoring bits of furniture.
So what? How low did you price it? How much money did you leave on the table, you think?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I don't think we lost money.
That's good.
Actually.
That's
job.
good.
I lost my brain, and I lost my nervous system.
Yeah.
Definitely lost that, because that was a learning curve. So I had to advertise in a local paper for craftspeople. I had nobody.
That is so funny.
So I had to just get all this, all these people that I didn't even know, and just make this project work. But what happened was that house was the film set to Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley.
Oh my
In
gosh.
2007, the Hollywood film.
Wow. It was Mr. Darcy's house, or whose house was it?
No, it was the Bennett's family home in the film.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you watch that and you see the Bennett's family home, that's Groombridge Place. That's where
that was all
that's
paint
where I
grade,
cut my teeth.
paint grade paneling, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. I didn't know you worked on that. You didn't tell me that.
Didn't I? That was my first project.
Yeah, that's my wife's favorite movie, and I love that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I loved that opening part of that movie, looking at the architecture of that room, right? I mean, that house is just amazing.
Yes.
Like, when was that?
It's one of the it's so original with its H frame structure,
Right, yeah.
shape structure. So it's really original. And but what I did, and this is always where I've been. My strength has always been in self-promotion and marketing. I thought, this is a great place to work. It's famous because of the 2007 film. I'm going to hire a PR expert. And I hired a PR expert. And this lady managed to get me a whole page in the Sunday Times of me restoring this place.
Wow.
Okay, so that's in a Sunday supplement. That's a big deal. That's tens of thousands of pounds if you had to pay for it.
Right.
Wow.
And from that, the BBC called me and said, could we come down and film you at the place?
No kidding.
So all of a sudden, I was sort of springboarded into architectural restoration, which I always say to people, it's absolutely identical to antique furniture restoration, but on a bigger scale. It's the same thing.
Were you still in the chicken shed at the time of the BBC thing?
I had upgraded to the chicken shed next door, which was bigger.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that piece
and-
on YouTube of you. You're talking about, like, I think it was the piece where you said someone came in and, like, sanded all the balusters and they ruined it. Do you remember that?
That's it. So this is Groombridge Place.
Okay.
Yeah. This is that.
So what was the approach that you took with the conservators and the heritage people that they appreciated your approach? You basically said, we got to restore it like you restore furniture, or
Yeah. My approach was to leave as much of the original material as we possibly can.
yeah.
And even if it's not quite nice and shiny for the client, that's not what's good for the building. That was my approach.
And what would what were they going to do to it? I mean, I hate to think how that thing would have turned out.
They were
if you
going to
hadn't been there.
strip it all back, sand it, and then varnish it.
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then interesting, this is a funny story, you like this one. So we were, when I had the work and we were halfway through the project, we walked around with the entourage of surveyors and project managers with the client, and we came up to this kitchen door. So it's a 400-year-old kitchen door, and it had lots of layers of sort of black paint and all sorts of things, but just the most amazing patina. Okay. And the client said to me, he said, Vincent, my wife wants that door stripped right back to the wood, so it looks much cleaner. Now, bearing in mind, everybody else is doffing their cap to this client and just doing what he wants because he's a very wealthy individual, okay? And I just said, I can't do that, I'm sorry. He stopped. Sorry? I said, I can't do that, and then explained why I'm not going to do that. Because of this, and I went through all the patina, the layers, and this, and all the lovely wear on the locks, and everything like that. And he went, oh, okay, fine. Yeah, okay, right, let's move on. And then the funny thing, he saw me in the courtyard the next day, and he shouted across the courtyard, "Good morning, boss."
That's beautiful. I love it. I love it.
But this is I think where, this is where I have. I think it's helped my career that I've got the I don't care if they can give me £50,000 to strip that door. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
It's as simple as that. I don't care who you are, how much money you've got. This is about the house.
Right.
And this is I think that has been part of where I am now, because of that attitude.
I love that side of your story because I'm new to this trade and I'm in my apprenticeship right now and I'm trying to figure out, how to respond in situations like this. And I just hear story after story after story of people like yourself who care about the house, who care about the wood, who care about the restoration of it and bringing it, or I guess more the preservation of it. And, telling these clients, from my point of view, I guess I'm like, well, you can't tell them no, they're the client. They're in charge, but they respect it so much more and they really appreciate the work so much more whenever they understand the history behind it and they understand the value that everything brings. So it's really encouraging to me to hear you say that, and hear that story.
Yeah, no, it is. And I always say to the clients that please don't be offended, but you're my number 2 priority here.
Yeah.
I'm here to advise you on the best possible outcome for your period property. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm going to do. And as you say, when you start explaining why certain paint layers actually look absolutely fantastic and why they're there, all of a sudden they just go, oh yeah, great. Oh no, let's keep that because I can tell my friends now.
Yeah.
That this is, do you see? So it's about educating.
And in a way, you kind of feel sorry for the people who are out there doing new builds. It's so much easier for a new client to say, you know what? I'm building it brand new. I'll build it whatever way I want to. We kind of have this history to fall back on and be able to say, no, look at this. Look at what someone before us has done and look at how much, cooler, especially with building tradition in America.
Well, I think that very attitude is what made Vincent so sought after because, now you're working for Royals and, House of Commons and all these other places that, the client, wealthy, whatever, they're looking for experts. They're looking for people who probably will tell them no, right? Who will tell them, no, we can't do that. Because probably everybody else in their life says, yes, sir, whatever you want. And so I think that's a powerful sales tool, but also people are looking for experts.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And there are too many people that will just do, the clients have too many options as well.
Yeah.
They don't want too many options.
Right. That's a good point.
What
is, how old were you when you got that job?
So I was probably about 33.
Okay. So you'd
about
been
30.
doing restoration for, if you got back 20, you were a musician, maybe 28, 29 when you started doing that stuff. Is that true?
Yeah, I was 30 when I went back in. When I decided, because I was doing a bit of film work and I was a musician, and I decided that's it. I'm going back in. And I was 30, so it was it was quite late to go back and basically reinvent myself.
Right.
So as you're going back and you're figuring all that stuff out on your own, what resources did you use in order to figure that out? Was it looking at the work that had been done before you, or was it more there were books that you were referencing? Yeah,
it was mainly because I had such a good grounding at the places that I'd been to before, and particularly the last place in Brighton. Even though I wasn't there that long, I got the foundation of what it's like to not overclean brass catches and not take out dents and scratches, and then that's the core. That I knew that, and then if you keep that as your golden rule, then as long as you're doing really nice repairs and honouring that, then I just taught myself. I didn't read books. And obviously no YouTube back then either.
Right.
It was just trial and error.
Yeah.
I made lots of mistakes.
Yeah. So walk us through, how you got to today and where you are and kind of, the business that you've got today. I think people will be interested.
Yeah,
to hear about that.
So what happened, because this is a good story as well, how I got into the working at the Royal Palaces. This is a good one. So I have a Land Rover with my sign writing on, and it was parked in a railway station. And my wife took it. My wife Skippy, who you've met, Brent, and she took it one day. And I got a phone call that day, and this person said, "Oh, I've just seen your Land Rover. I see you do heritage woodwork. Do you ever work in London?" And I'd never worked in London. And I said, yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And so he said, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing. You've always got to, that fine line, you've got to have that confidence to, I could have easily that day said no.
Right.
Right.
I wouldn't be working at the Palaces now if I'd said no. So that's another lesson,
Right.
you know. You just sometimes go for it and deal with it afterwards, and you'll learn. And
Yeah.
you know,
That's great.
it. And that's what I've done. So anyway, so I said, yeah. We've worked in London. So okay, well, I'll send you over some details of this place, and it was the Midland Bank headquarters in the city, and they were turning it into a 6-star hotel, and it's called the Ned. It's in London. It's called the Ned. Now, what they wanted was on the 4th and the 5th floor of this headquarters, and it had been derelict for 15 years or so.
Wow.
There were listed paneling on the 4th and the 5th floor. They wanted to understand, could they put a swimming pool on the 6th floor, and would it hold up? So we went up and had to take some panels off so they could radar and scan the building
Yeah.
to see if it was going to be strong enough. And it was really interesting. And then we then put the panels back. And the company that were managing that were a big company in London. And I got on well with the person that was our sort of contact. Anyway, what happened is that finished, and about 3 months afterwards, we're doing local work in the area where we are now. And an email came through, and it said, "You have been chosen to tender for work at Kensington Palace."
What does that mean? How does that work? I mean, what does that mean?
So tendering is to price work. You have been chosen as a nominated contractor.
Wow.
To price work at Kensington Palace.
Just because of your work doing the paneling?
Because this person liked my work at the Ned Hotel.
Yeah.
We didn't do much work there, but he just,
saw
thought,
your
name
processes and techniques and how careful you were, and said, right, this is a guy who knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah. So this email came through, and I laughed, and I phoned Skippy up, my wife. I said, "You'll never guess what's happened. I'm going to print it and we'll frame it so we can have it at home."
Yeah.
Never in a million years thinking that we would actually be working at the Palace.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Never. So this came through, and actually Skippy came up with me to look at this project. And when you go and look to tender for works, you're not the only one there. You're there with your competitors, so it's really awkward.
Wow.
So you're walking around, and then you've got 2 people over in that corner hiding all their notes and they're sketching, and then you've got 2 people over that corner, and we're not speaking to each other.
That's so funny. There's
really funny.
what's called pre-bid conferences in the U.S. or in Texas that we go to, these courthouses and things, and we always want to be the last one to sign in, because then we can see who else is there, because everybody has to put their name and their company and everything else. And we're like passing the thing around, and then right at the end, we're like, "Oh yeah, no, I haven't signed in yet." And then you're looking to see who else is there. So same kind of thing. I think.
Exactly.
Trade
Anyway,
secrets.
so we were walking around the Palace, and we were just happy to be there.
Right.
Let's face it.
Right.
We were just happy to be there. And I did my normal thing. I get very excited and enthusiastic, and started talking about the paneling and various repairs that have been done in the past, and my opinion on what we would do and how our methodology and our approach. And I was also again, they were saying some, in my opinion, they were saying some incorrect things. The contracts manager was saying, "Oh, and we're going to do this here and this here," and I just put my hand up and said, "I personally wouldn't do that because of X, Y, and Z." So you know, and I was just being truthful rather than just saying yes and nodding and thinking, you know. So they said at the end, they said, "Thank you everybody for coming. Those that we're interested in will receive an email to be invited back." So Skippy and I went, and we said, what a great experience. What a great experience. Never thought we'd get another call, and we got another email. You've been invited. And this went on for about 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
Visits, because I was an unknown. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't realize at the time, but they were so fed up with big companies winning the work and subcontracting it out, and the quality wasn't so good. They wouldn't get the right people in. And they wanted this time, you know, so whoever's going to win the work is going to do the work. Even if they have to subcontract, you know, some individuals to bring in, they will actually do the work. So I didn't know at this time. Then we got into this. This is the funniest story. Okay, so now I'm getting really close. I'm thinking, crikey, it's only me and one other, I think. And we met with the curators, with the project managers, with the surveyors, and part of the other decision-making team at Kensington Palace. And we're around this big boardroom table and asking, you know, question after question on how we're going to do this and how we're going to price, all the sorts of things. And then this one question came up from Liz, who's also been on my podcast. So you have to listen to Liz Smith. She's great. She said, "Mr. Reed, can you tell us what qualifications you have to do this work in such an incredible palace and place?" And I thought about it. And I said, "I have none.
Wow.
I'm not qualified. I left school without any qualifications, including ungraded in woodwork." And there was a silence. Everybody was silent. And then Liz, who asked me the question, burst out laughing. Then everybody else burst out laughing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what was the response? How did they just were like, "We want you.
Well,
we want you anyway."
To be honest, at this stage, they were just about to press the button.
Yeah.
You know, to say, yeah, you've got the job.
Right.
And my confidence, you know, who cares if I didn't get, you know, an A star in woodwork at school?
Right.
You know,
They also
I'm
probably
telling you,
loved you being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I said, you know, I just said, I know I can do this, and I would do this work to the best possible quality that you can imagine. So
How big a contract was it?
yeah, that first contract was probably about, how big was that?
And I don't need the
Maybe
exact dollars. I'm just curious if it was like way over your head, or was it a pretty small contract? Or
Way over. Way over. Way over my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Huge.
Yeah.
For me, never worked like that. And again, I had to pull in other people that I'd never worked with before. And then I was learning on the job of how to, you know, conduct yourself and all the different complexities of working at that level, and the logistics of working at that level. And, you know, it was absolutely the toughest thing I've ever done. And then even tougher when I had arranged for a really large overdraft with my bank manager.
Yeah.
To be able to fund the job, because your payments aren't, it's not like a private client where you can say, "Can I have a big chunk of money up front, please?"
Right.
It's not like that.
Right.
So you have to you know, fund the project to a certain degree until you get paid.
Right.
And you only get paid when everything's signed off and you've done a percentage of this and a percentage of that, then you'll get paid. And it was about 6 weeks, I think, the payment terms. So I had to fund this with an overdraft facility. And we were about 3 weeks on the project. I owed thousands and thousands of pounds in wages. And my bank manager phoned me and said, Vincent, I am so sorry. I've made a mistake. Your overdraft hasn't been agreed.
Oh my gosh.
No way.
Yeah. And I
So in American,
I had-
just real quick, in American terms, were you getting a loan? Was an overdraft agreement a loan?
Yeah, so where you have a bank account and then you can have a certain amount of money it's an arranged loan borrowing fee that you can dip in and dip out of.
Right. So
That's
they
the
basically
overdraft.
say we're going to credit you 20,000 pounds or whatever it's going to be, but he hadn't put that in place yet.
He hadn't put that in place.
Yeah.
He
weeks in.
He made an error. He made an error on the form and he admitted it.
Oh no. So
Right?
what happened?
And it was a huge loan.
Yeah.
Big.
Yeah.
For me. Anyway, so what happened then is that I got on the phone to my friend, and by this time, at this point as well, my wife was 2 weeks pregnant as well. So there was lots of emotions going on
Yeah.
with us. And I got on the phone to my friend, and I literally went round the back of the porter cabin and just burst into tears because the pressure was just so immense.
Right.
I had a workforce that was saying, when are we getting paid? And I was saying, yeah, you're going to get paid next week, knowing that I didn't have the funds.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, thank God my friend, who
now.
I know. So thank God my friend, who I was bawling my eyes out with on the phone and couldn't even speak, had a high-pitched squeal. I couldn't even get any words out. I was so stressed. He managed to contact the bank manager. He was helping me with my business. He contacted the bank manager. They managed to get it sorted. And within the next sort of 3 days, it was arranged.
Oh my gosh.
Those are the moments in your business that are just like, you'll never forget them. And, that you grow from them and you figure stuff out, but, you're just winging it for a long time. And then,
I know.
yeah.
I know.
It is
And
crazy to your point earlier, Vincent. Like, had you not said yes, had you not swung for the fences here, where would you be?
Yeah.
That it's
exactly.
encouraging. It's very encouraging.
So did you finish the job? Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, we did the job. So we won the contract initially for all the paneling restoration in the privy and the presence chamber. And then we got asked to price the new flooring, and we won that work as well. And that again was ridiculously stressful because they are asked, they give you the preferred suppliers when you win contracts, and they say this is the person that you need to go out to. They've supplied us for oak for 50 years, and you can only go to this person. Okay, so I went to that person. And I went to their workshop, their milling yard.
Right.
Realized they couldn't supply me because the methods and techniques that they were supplying wasn't good enough for what I wanted.
Right.
Realized that I went back on the train on the way home, realizing that I had nobody to supply this wood at this stage.
Wow.
So that was another huge stress for me.
Yeah.
And then eventually found a yard that could do it and could do it to my specifications, all pre-sanded board so you don't get dust in the palace. And so that it was a learning curve. It was a serious learning curve.
Vincent, can you provide context into the square meters that you're working with here? Like how big of, palaces are massive.
Yeah, they are. So these were only 2 rooms, and it was probably only about 150 square meters of flooring that I had to purchase. That's the 2 rooms combined.
Okay.
And then we had
those rooms
the paneling restoration.
Were those the rooms you took us into?
You would have gone into those in the king's apartments.
Yep,
You would have done that.
Yeah. Okay. I saw that. Yeah.
And then the paneling that we're restoring was installed by Sir Christopher Wren and Nicholas Hawksmoor.
No way.
Yeah. So
What would that have been? 1700?
Yeah. So the early part of the palace is 1689 when William and Mary came to the throne, William of Orange from Holland.
Yeah.
And then George I came to the throne in 1714, and a lot of the king's apartments were revamped then. So 1710, 1720 as well. So it's that period.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
The and you were consulting for a long time, and then started, I think you're building your team now.
Yeah.
And
So-
where you aren't hiring out craftsmen, they actually already work for you. Is that true?
So what happened is that during that time I wasn't doing any type of consulting. I was literally just had a team of people, mainly subcontractors, and we would go from project to project. But then COVID came, and we were on our second project at the Palace. This is 2020, second big major project at the Palace, and we just about finished a 3-month contract a week before lockdown.
Wow.
A week before lockdown. And then, because that was just so stressful, and the whole COVID thing, had to, downsize, and it was just terrible. I thought, right, I'm not going to go through this again. I'm just going to become a consultant. That's what I'm going to do going forward.
okay.
Become a consultant. So that was my plan. But my plan has changed because I've been lucky enough to be aligned with a really, really fantastic beginnings of a fantastic team of people. And I'm thinking now, hold on a minute, these buildings need me.
Right.
They absolutely need me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm doing a lot of consulting, but we're also now we're working mainly in London, restoring buildings again, and I'm now hiring people.
Yeah.
Trying to build the team again.
That's incredible. Is there something that you hold as like a criteria for, I'm sure the work that you have available to you is endless. Is there some way of filtering through what jobs you should take versus what jobs you shouldn't take, and prioritizing that? Or maybe that's not an issue.
No, I think it is, because the thing is that we always want to be doing the best possible work. So I've got to hire the best possible craftsmen. So our price point is going to be higher than most companies. So Jackson, that's a really interesting point, because the project or the clients, and this is not arrogant. This is just what I've learned over the years, is that they have to be on board and aligned with what we do, and almost sort of qualify for us to work. So we're fussy, because if you just take on any project, and then all of a sudden, a third of the way through it, you think, that client is just is not on board with what I think, and what our method, and you've just taken it because it was a well-paid project.
For sure.
Then that can backfire.
That's a really good point. That's really helpful.
So they, it's we're very, very fussy, and the client or the client's representative, which happens a lot, just have to really believe in what we do and what I do.
Yeah.
And then that's one thing. The other thing is that there could be a huge amount of work just in the royal palaces.
Yeah.
But you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket there.
Right.
Because then you'll never be able to service your private clients.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So, yeah, we try and work on 80% private clients and then 20%, organizations and royal households and that type of thing.
Cool.
But it doesn't sometimes work like that, because then, this year we may have a big project at a royal palace that could be months,
Yeah, month to month and year to year, that'll obviously change. But if that's your core philosophy, that helps to pick and choose jobs. That's cool.
What's next for you, Vincent? What does the next few years hold? What kind of company you're building and working on?
So interestingly, and I've been really inspired by you, Brent, as well, and what you're doing over there. And it's really I've taken a lot of inspiration from that. And where we're going as a company is, I think that we've got a lot to give, and I've got a lot to give as well. I'm deeply passionate, and I now have a bit of knowledge after 35 years of doing this. Still not enough knowledge. I still need to learn more and more and more and more and more. Never going to stop learning.
Sure.
But I have a lot of experience, not just from what I'm looking at and the craft and everything, but stories like the loan that didn't come through, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So that's apps. And so what I'm thinking is what I need to take all of that expertise and experience and really build something that's fantastic. So we're looking at scaling the team and cherry picking work to a degree, and starting to look at rather than just going in as the contractors for woodwork, we're thinking of getting a fantastic team together of interior designers and project managers and surveyors that really believe in the Vincent Reed ethos and banner, and come on not as an employed, but come on as almost like a collaborative to work on projects so we can deliver projects, the Vincent Reed project. That's what we're looking at doing, because we believe we could do a really fantastic job.
Are you the what we would call here the general contractor, or would you be the architectural team, or what how would you describe that team?
So it would be the whole contract, the whole contract, and then bringing others in,
Sure.
and making sure that these buildings are, really getting looked after, because it's shocking still what happens. These buildings are protected, but it's still time and time again you see bad craftsmanship and original joinery being ripped out and thrown on a skip.
Yeah.
It's not great. So I would love to be able to be in a position where we could say, let's come in early and this will be a Vincent Reed project.
Yeah.
That's sort of where we're looking at.
By the way, the
going.
skip is the dumpster, just so everybody
The dumpster.
hears.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Understood.
You were telling me about coming to America, and you and your wife, maybe your daughter too, you traveled around. Tell them that Jefferson Davis story, because I think that captures kind of what your method and methodology is, right? And what's how you think about these things. And I think it's important because I'd like people to understand that, because that's one of the differences we have, right? That's the way we look at it, as far as looking to the past, not wanting whatever's new and things like that. But tell us that.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. That
I do.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So we, when Skippy and I got married, we had a road trip in the States. We met friends in Philadelphia, and then we hired a car and we traveled right the way down Virginia and Tennessee, Memphis, literally over like 3,500 miles or something. We drove.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And one of the places that we stopped at was in Richmond, and it was it's the original White House, isn't it,
Yeah.
Brent?
The Southern
Richmond,
White
I
House,
think.
Jefferson Davis's White House.
The Jefferson Davis Southern White House, yeah. Anyway, so we're touring around this, and then we came to this dining room, and there's a big mahogany dining table in the room, and the guide was incredibly proud because he said, this is the room where all the debates, Lincoln would have been here, all the people would have been discussing, debating around this table, and we have just had it professionally restored. And I looked at this table, and I could have shaved in the table because it was so heavily sanded and highly polished. There was no character, none of the history, none of Lincoln's cufflink scars on the table, or nothing. And my heart sunk but the guy was really, really proud. He said, we've just had it restored back to how it would have been originally.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny because I see both sides, right? I understand why, he would think that by taking it back, by sanding it down, he's doing a good thing. And yet when you understand the history that he sanded away, the story, the patina, as we say over here, and the great narrative, because then all of a sudden it's no longer just a table that was in Jefferson Davis's White House. It's just a table. And so it's no longer special.
I would like to apologize for all Americans for that huge mistake. That's like your welcome to America moment.
But the thing is that it's, unless you have some crazy person like me talking, or Brent saying, look at this, enthusing about it and explaining this is why this is so important. People they haven't twigged that there could be another way.
They forget. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's so easy. There's my first year professor at my apprenticeship, he's very big on it. That's how he taught us to engage with clients, is everything that you're describing right now, where you go, well, look at this. Look at the history behind this. This is why they did it this way. This is, and kind of walking clients through the history of it. And he actually did that with the John Hancock door. He saw it in one of the shipping containers, that they had been storing it in, and they were moving it out of the way, and they were dragging it across the floor. And he was like, oh, what is that door? And, had to explain to the people who were the curators of the door, don't do that, And it's so funny because those being the curators of it, you would think they would understand it, but the way that it gets lost so quickly, and you just lose that element of, no, this is a historical piece. There's so much preserved in this, it's very easy to jump past that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
How much of your work now, looking at the woodwork behind you, are you doing 17th, 18th century things? I mean, is it just kind of, you'll do whatever, the job is, or do you have a specific period you're better at or more well known for?
No. So what we will do is I will take on anything that is listed. And if I explain how things are protected and listed in this country, you have the buildings that have historic significance. They have a listing, which means that Historic England have said this building is historically significant. Any work you do to this, there's certain protocol and procedures and rules and legislation and everything to do. Okay, you can't just go and take a panelled wall down. You can't do this. This is listed. Okay, so when you have a listed building that you might want some wall panelling change, you can't go out to just a local joiner carpenter company, because they don't have the expertise working with listed buildings.
Right.
So my work now, it ranges from literally anything that's listed grade. You have scheduled monuments like Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace, Hampton Court. They're the very highest. You then have grade 1 listed buildings, the second, grade 2 star, and grade 2. Those are all the listings. Okay. And about 95% are grade 2, and then 4.5% are scheduled monuments, and then the rest grade 1. Then you have your scheduled monuments. So, but it does just because it's listed doesn't mean it can be old. So I'm working at the moment on a 1950s building.
Why is it listed
with veneered ply paneling? And cabinets, because it was designed by a famous architect in the 1950s. And now that is a listed building. So a contractor's in there revamping it all. And I have to go up as a consultant and tell them how they're going to repair and look after and protect those marine ply with a mahogany veneer on top. So it can range from the 1950s. It doesn't really go much between lower than 1650. I'd say,
Okay.
because there's so little woodwork
Yeah.
before that time. Yeah,
Okay.
but all that, I mean, my favourite's the 17th. I love the late 17th century, early 18th century. That's my area if I had one, you know.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that 1950s, like as you're working on some newer projects, are you noticing that they are easier to preserve or less easy to preserve? Because I guess specifically in America, we kind of see this craftsmanship drop off a cliff a little bit towards the 1960s to where,
Yep.
you know, you have things that aren't as well built. They aren't using traditional joinery methods. They aren't, you know, doing certain things that would enable buildings to last longer. And I'm just wondering if you're seeing any difference as you're working on this 1950s buildings to, let's say, a 18th century building.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's harder. It's harder to work on the later stuff because it's all machine made.
Yeah.
And a lot of the glues are 1950s, it's going to be man-made glue, be
Yeah.
PVAs and resins.
As opposed to
So
a
if
high
you want
glue.
to, that would have just been tailing out at that time. So
Yeah.
now they're into all of the synthetic glues and man-made glues. So when you want to repair something, it's much harder because you can't dissolve the synthetic glues.
Right.
Where hide glue, you can dissolve. I can take a dining chair that was made in, you know, by Chippendale 1740. I can take the whole thing apart with some hot water and a toothbrush.
Yep.
I can melt the animal glue and
Right.
clean all the joints and put it all back together again.
Right.
So in some respects, it's difficult to it's more challenging. The other thing that's challenging, there's not the historic records of knowing, in this particular job, this 1950s project, knowing exactly what finish they used. You know, was it a polyurethane finish? Was it a varnish? Was it an acrylic lacquer? Because they're all around the same time. So you then got to know, right, okay, we don't know what this is. Whereas if you've got a 17th century, you know that it's a oil or a wax. When you go into the 19th century, there's a good chance it's going to be shellac.
Yeah.
So you can get a bit of methylated spirits and wipe that and realize that's dissolving. Yeah, that's a shellac finish.
Yep.
So it's actually harder.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit harder, to be honest,
Interesting.
as a rule.
So
Yeah.
Vincent, we're running up right about an hour, and so we're gonna let you go. When do you think you're
Okay.
gonna come? When do you think you're coming to the U.S.?
Yeah, so I think it's because you have a scorching summer.
Yeah,
Chrissy said, "Don't come in the summer." It's not.
yeah. August, don't come in August. Yeah, but
No.
early fall would be really nice.
Yeah, I'd love to come over. I'd love to come over and do some presentations if we,
Yep.
you know, if we have time to organise that.
Yep.
And just share my passion and you know
100%.
speak to whoever I can speak to.
Yeah, no,
I'd love to
love
do
that. I'd love that. We need to share your story. So, thank you for coming on with us. Really appreciate it. It's great seeing you. Good seeing your smiling face. Thanks for sharing your stories.
Yeah. Thank you, Vincent.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure.
Okay, take care.